the main thing that we were discussing was theory of causation. That Sankhya philosophy has tried to brought forward this idea of cause and effect. And the fundamental question that Vedanta, Yoga, and Sankhya asks, or they reply to this fundamental question in yes. The question is, does an effect originally exists in its material cause prior to its production? Anything that which we see is an effect, and that effect must have a cause. And without a cause, an effect cannot exist. There is a potentiality of a particular effect that we want to have, then a certain or a particular cause is required. It's logical. It's not like anything comes out of anything. There is a logical sequence of things. And on the basis of that theory of causation, Sankhya philosophy is able to deduct the theory of evolution of creation, Prakriti. And very logically, they have enumerated these evolutes of Prakriti. And these evolutes of Prakriti are in total, there are 23 principles that Sankhya has mentioned, and including Purusha, it is 24. And when we talk in terms of so in this way, the Sankhya philosophy is giving a very logical explanation to the evolution of the creation. We have discussed partially about the Purusha or Prakriti. So there are certain characteristics of Purusha. Just to recapitulate quickly, Purusha is equated to the Atman in Vedanta, soul, self, spirit, Purusha. They can be called synonyms. With this understanding that Vedanta says that the Atman and Brahman is one. But Sankhya has made this very clear from the beginning that Purushas are multiple. As many souls, as many beings, that number of Purushas are there. So when we understand in the language of Sankhya, then we don't use the word Atman because that brings this confusion. So we always use self in the context of Purusha. So this is the self, and it is universal, it is pure consciousness. So it is not the quality that is of the Purusha, but consciousness itself is Purusha. So Purusha is conscious, and it is eternal. It was there, it is not produced, and it is not, uh, neither it is produced nor it produces anything. Understand the difference between Purusha and Prakriti. This will be the easier way to understand. Purusha neither is the production of anything nor it produces anything. That is the quality of Purusha. Purusha is distinct, indestructible, all pervasive, without any activity and any attributes, any parts, any forms, uncaused, unqualified, and changeless. These are the qualities of Purusha, characteristics of Purusha. It is intelligent principle that is regulating, guiding, and directing the process of cosmic evolution without involving in it. Just by being in the presence of it, Prakriti will start to evolve. We will talk a little more about Prakriti a little later. But for now, mere presence of Purusha is enough. He does not have to initiate anything. So, in this way, the Purusha is that kind of uh, entity which is separate from everything and it is not involved in anything. Now, Prakriti is the second principle of Sankhya, and the meaning of Prakriti, pra means before, first, and kra means to make, to produce, means that it existed before the cosmos was produced. This is a very interesting thing, and remember it, otherwise it causes confusion. That Prakriti is eternal too. Prakriti was already there. So Prakriti is not a production of anything, it is the root of all productions. But one quality that is different than Purusha is it produces. That's the difference between Purusha and Prakriti. Prakriti produces. Purusha does not produce and it is not the production, but Prakriti is not the production of anything, but it has potential to produce. So that's the distinction between Purusha and Prakriti. So Prakriti is existing from the beginning, and it is the primary source of all the things that we see. It is the unmanifest matter. Anything that which is not in manifested form yet is avyakta, means it is unmanifested matter. It has potential to manifest for sure. So it is on the this is the first cause of all causes or all the effects. But there is no cause of Prakriti, make it very clear. These are the theoretical postulates, assumptions of Sankhya. And you may argue that why Prakriti is not considered as a production of anything and what is the source of, what is the cause of Prakriti. Vedanta will say that the cause of Prakriti is Brahman. It has come out of the womb of Brahman, but not in Sankhya. Sankhya begins with this idea. So Prakriti is also uncaused cause. It is uncaused, but it causes. So it is eternal, indestructible, and insentient. This is the difference with the Purusha again. Purusha is knower. Purusha is intelligent, but Prakriti is not. And Prakriti means equilibrium of the three gunas. So gunas that we discussed, sattva, ras, and tama. These three gunas, three attributes, when they are held in equilibrium, it will be the Prakriti in the state of unmanifested. Unmanifested state of Prakriti means balanced doshas, balanced gunas. The moment this balance of the gunas is disturbed, the question comes who, why, when, whom. Right now, we are not going to into that discussion, but understand as soon as there is imbalance in the equilibrium of the gunas, the process of evolution will begin. There are many metaphors for that. So that we will see. One metaphor to understand that how, if Purusha is not doing anything, Purusha is completely aloof, he is not involved, he is not even interested in Prakriti, then how does they get united? When do they get united? This question is not answered when and why and how. Some metaphysical or some reason. The beginning is due to some karmas and some reason, Purusha and Prakriti come into the proximity of each other. And in that proximity, something happens and Prakriti start to evolve. Still Purusha is the same. Many metaphors. One metaphor to understand that, which we have the experience with, they say that if there is a dog sitting in the corner of a street, and you are crossing that street, you want to cross that street, and that dog is sleeping, and that dog does not care whether you exist there or not even looking at you. This dog is sleeping, but merely by seeing the dog or coming into the proximity of the dog, or just this awareness that there is dog, there is evolution in the Prakriti start to evolve in that sense. So what we start to do, if there is fear and if that place, that dog is unknown, it will start the reaction. When the dog is sleeping, its face is other side and it is not doing anything, but it is still able to cause the tension in the person who is scared of the dog, isn't it? So in the same way, the proximity of Purusha and Prakriti is enough for the evolution of Prakriti. Nothing is to be done. Just mere presence. That you also have, all of us has experienced it. If you are traveling and you are sitting in that compartment alone, and then somebody enters, just mere entrance of the other person will cause number of changes inside. Whether you talk or not, it does not matter. And sometimes we have seen this, like in our college times, the girls and the boys, but it's not about male and female, just for the, I just want to make this easy to understand. Otherwise, it has no male and female concept, no feminine or masculine concept. The boys were sitting this side, the girls are sitting this side, and they come and sit for half an hour for the food. Both are in separate sides. Nothing is to be done. Within few days, there will be a lot of things that may start to happen there. If you remember your young days when you were like that, then you can understand that nothing is to be done. Mere presence of Purusha is enough. And they just being in the proximity, and you never know what stories will come out of that. How much creation will happen. Sometimes that creation may go up to many children. And then you have to put the brake on the creation. It will be that much. So this is the meaning, that just mere the presence of Purusha will initiate that disturbance in the equilibrium of the gunas, and evolution will happen. Very interesting idea here in this Sankhya philosophy. Also, one more metaphor for that is that the lame and a blind man, they were in the jungle, and they need, if they both come together, they can find a way, because the lame and the blind, so lame is the Purusha, cannot produce, cannot walk, cannot move, and Prakriti is ever changing. So Prakriti is all the time in a process of, it is wanting to evolve. So, but it is blind, it does not know in which direction should I go. So the classical metaphor that they have mentioned is this lame and the blind man. If they both come together, then this blind can walk, lame can see. So the sight and movement, when these two capacities are joined together, they can end this journey. So these two properties of sight and movement must join in order to end the journey. This is exactly what the purpose of Purusha and Prakriti is. Two important sentences, remember here. Purusha has the capacity to see, and Prakriti, if it is seen, it will never appear again. So both, when they come, how much union that the Purusha and Prakriti require here. The Purusha, if the Purusha is able to see Prakriti, The role of Prakriti is finished. There is no further creation. If it is seen, means the Prakriti is saying, I had been seen, so I go now. I was just there all the time waiting to be seen. The moment it is seen, it's done with its purpose. This is where Sankhya is saying that what we need to develop and why we need two principles, Purusha and Prakriti, is this reason that the Purusha need to see and Prakriti needs to be seen. In the moment this happens, the Prakriti is seen, the entire business is over. This is exactly what happens in our relationships, in our all the creation that we do, all the makeup that we put, all the things that we do to in a very gross sense I'm talking now, it is for the sake of being seen. The moment it is seen, it's done. It loses its significance. So interesting thing that if I remind you the sutra, in Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, it is very clearly said that if the purpose of, if the Purusha is realized, then what happens to Prakriti? Then the Prakriti will cease to exist for this Purusha. Chapter 2, either 20 or 22. Yeah, so it is 22. 2, 2, 2. Very easy to remember. It is saying, to the one who is absorbed, objects remain dissolved. But for others, they continue to exist. Kritartam pratinashtam apyanashtam tadanna sadharanatvat. That this Prakriti will cease to exist, the one who has seen it. And if that's why now these two principles are required in Sankhya, and that's why the Sankhya is so realistic. Because Sankhya is saying that life is an opportunity to experience potential for liberation from suffering. Every experience in life is an opportunity to see. It is an opportunity to overcome or be free from the suffering. If we can see it. So if we are able to see the ever-changing Prakriti, the attributes of Prakriti, they are so changing, suffering can be end. Because for us, this ignorance or this identification with the Prakriti is so deep that when something happens, we not only we don't see it, but we so get identified that we multiply further. Something so close but cannot be seen then. Just like if you put the, that inside your eyes that you cannot see, eyeliner. But it is so close that you can't see it. That deep identification. So, if we are able to differentiate, separate, so the life is giving those opportunities to us. So life is, they're saying that life is presenting a possibility to connect to unchanging awareness. Same time, the same incident, same experience. Two persons, as I said last time, you may have pleasure, you may have pain, or you may be indifferent to it. But here, what we are trying to learn in this is to be able to separate from this identification, or in other words, connect to the possibility to that unchanging awareness within. So Sankhya say that do not run away from life. Sankhya says that do not consider that life or the creation or the world is illusion. It is said it is not illusion. It is illusion only when you are able to realize that. Then you can see, yeah, it's illusion. Once you have seen, you know it's nothing. But until you have not seen and you hear from somebody else that it is like this, it is not helpful. So that's why the Sankhya philosophy is so realistic and telling us to live life with awareness and have this clarity that each experience that is arising in front of me is an opportunity to connect to that unchanging reality or unchanging awareness within me. All affairs of life are okay for Sankhya. Sankhya is not saying don't get involved, don't get. Sankhya is not saying you should isolate yourself. Sankhya is saying interact, because interaction is an opportunity. If you close your eyes, then you cannot say I have seen Prakriti. Or then you cannot say no, I closed my eyes, I don't need to see Prakriti. It is so unrealistic. Because what is presented, you must see it. This is the practical aspect of the Sankhya that is saying engage, interact, but knowing that there is one unchanging principle. And from own experiences of life, when we are able to fully live that moment and we are able to see that creation and all those evolutes, all the effects, it will bring the inner knowledge. It is an opportunity that is presented to us in order to see with clarity. I have emphasized because this one is the core. If we forget that and we only know all these things, then it's not useful. That's where problem with the all philosophy is. This is the practical aspect, that what do I learn from Sankhya? That this, I don't isolate, I don't run away, I face everything that is there in front of me, and I see all the effects, all the identifications, my beliefs, emotions, everything is coming into play here. We don't need to go into that discussion. But it is very practical, that I can remind myself again and again that there is unchanging principle in me, that is Purusha. So the Sattva, Raja and Tamo gunas, these three gunas are constantly in interplay. One more fact. In this whole thing, one misperception that we have is that Prakriti seems to be very intelligent. Means the mind or chitta, everything that we say is nothing but Prakriti. And it all seems to be intelligent. All seems to make sense to us. How does it happen? They say it is in the mere proximity of that intelligent principle, that is Purusha. If you come in contact with Purusha, you reflect and you absorb that. It is also a misperception. Just like if you put the iron rod into the fire, very nice example that classically they have given. If you put the iron rods into the fire, after some time these iron rods will become fire. Means they will be red. They will lose its own color. Its intrinsic nature is not heat. The iron rods are not hot by itself. But if they are kept in the fire, they absorb that and it becomes so real to it, as if that these iron rods look like fire. In the same way, Prakriti looks like that. In the same way, our mind appears to be intelligent. But it is in the proximity of Purusha. Because the moment Purusha is not there, the self is not there, then if you remove the fire from it, then that iron rod will come back to its nature. Then all the fiery elements are finished from it. However, when you put the iron rod into the fire, it is possible to mold it to any shape. That's why this creation is so big, because you can make anything from that iron rod. It is so flexible, you can mold it to any form, but that is not its nature. The Sattva, Raja and Tamagunas, these three constituents are the root of all the changes that are happening in the objective world. Now, we, from the practical point of view again, from the yogic point of view, these Sattva, Raja and Tamogunas are extremely useful. Understanding and practice part of it. Very useful part of the practice. What is that? If we take an example of a tree, as I said earlier, that nothing in this nature can exist without having all the three gunas in it. So, all the three gunas are present in every creation, everything that we see in this creation. So, let's take an example of a tree. Tree is solid, the roots and the trunk, which is representing tamas, stability. The growth that we see in that tree is rajas, because of the movement. It changes, it grows. So the solidarity, stability, inertia, shape, form are these characteristics of tamas. All the things that we see within this body, bones, flesh, everything that is heavy, which is giving a shape, stability, is tamas. In the same way, rajas is the growth, the change that we see, the movement, the dynamics of all things is representing rajas. And the equanimity means that the tree is so generous, equanimous, that if you go and want to have the fruit, you can always have it. That is sattva. In the practice aspect, the sattva, raj, and tamo gunas need to be taken care. In our daily life, this is the practical aspect of Sankhya. We can see, of course, with the help of yoga, it's much more effective, that we can see this interaction, this change, this combination of these three gunas into our each thought, action, and feeling. In everything, we can see the gunas. It is so changing. You are in dominance of sattva, and in that moment, somebody asks, I need this, you will be so happy to give. No problem. Yeah, don't worry, please take it, enjoy it. But if you are in that state of tamas or rajas, merely by seeing someone, whether this person has come to ask for or not, you may fire. This person has not come to ask for anything, maybe has come to give you something. But mere this idea which you are having that, oh my God, whenever this person appears, always wants something from me. And you're already prepared with your all the armors and then attack. You, without wait, you attack. Sometimes it's too late to realize that you attacked the wrong person, the wrong timing, and everything was false. Which we can realize at the same time when we go back to sattva state again. So these three gunas are trying to overpower each other constantly, every moment. Mainly the rajas is trying to overpower the others. So an example of this, if if three persons are sleeping in a room, we can see, depending on their behavior, how these people will behave. So if a sattvic person wake up because want to practice yoga in the morning, suppose 5 a.m., the sattvic person wake up, will move so slowly, so gently, without making any sound, without unnecessarily turning the lights on. And this sattvic person will be so considerate that will prepare everything before sleep. That what I need tomorrow morning may disturb others, so everything is arranged earlier. And in the morning, when this person wakes up, will do the things as silently as possible. And if you practice Ashtanga, maybe you will not make hissing sound. So you can see the sattva in your ujjayi breath, depending on the moment. So this rajasic person wake up, then everything has to move. And tamasic don't care. They both has woke up, and then tamasic person will cover and make himself dark again. No matter what light in sunlight is there, or you put the light on, no worries. I'm just there covering myself. So these are the characteristics of the sattva, raja, and tamogunas, and they are in constant interaction, change, movement. So sattva, raja, and tamogunas. If there is imbalance, it is an obstacle to the clarity, and they will limit our the capacity of discernment, and without that discernment we are not able to elevate from the suffering. The practical aspect of sattva, raja, and tamoguna is that with our asana, pranayam, meditation, all the practices, we are shaking these gunas, and the first one that need to be targeted is tamas. We have to shake off this tamas. So in the pranayam practices, in ashtanga vinyasa practice, not for the tamasic people, not easy, because you have to shake up, wake up, and do your action. So movement, Bhastrika pranayam, Kapal Bhati, Agnisar, they are shaking up shattering the tamas effects, so that you are able to see the things in a more clear manner. And then rajas, which is movement. And this rajas is very useful, but then it can be a problem by itself also. The rajas is uh, so much restlessness that may cause a lot of tension. So this restlessness need to be also settled by awakening the sattva. So asana, when you have done the movement, so this is the why the Ashtanga Vinyasa practice is very helpful when there is too much of activity of the rajas, then that energy is transformed by all that movement, bandhas, breathing, and all the difficult postures, so that you are able to center and use that energy which was surplus, and then it was restless. So this surplus energy, unused energy, is the cause of restlessness, which is settled by channeling it in a certain direction. And then there is a possibility of awakening of the sattva. So in our practice, this one aspect of the Sankhya philosophy is directly involved. We can see, we can experience is sattva, raja, tamas, targeting, shattering the tamas, engaging with the rajas, and engaging into the creation with the rajas, and giving a direction with the help of sattva. Then only we are. So for the sattva, raja, tamas, for more clarity on it, if you see the chapter 14 of Bhagavad Gita, very detailed explanation is given. So from verse number 4, 5, actually from the beginning you can see the Purusha, Prakriti and everything in the 14th chapter, and characteristics of Sattva, Raja, how these people are behaving, all that is mentioned. So in this way, the Purusha and Prakriti, now we come to this process of evolution. The process of evolution is, let's see always that from here, that the Purusha and Prakriti, they are already in the proximity. Then what will happen and how things will appear. So it is because of the result of the past actions that Prakriti comes into this process to help. The both Purusha and Prakriti come into the proximity to help each other to be free. First time when they got involved, we don't know. And this question cannot be answered. So we have to assume from the beginning that no matter when it has happened, now the situation is the creation is happening. The question that Sankhya is dealing, can you do something about this creation? Is there a possibility that you can stop the creation? Then Sankhya says, yes, it is possible that you can stop the production. That is possible. So is the need for the Sankhya. Otherwise, all this discussion is useless. Since we are already in this process of already this creation is causing suffering and we are already in the midst of suffering, one possibility is that we continue to live in that which is there for many people and they don't do anything about it. And Sankhya say that we patiently wait for them until they get some shaking, and then there is a need that will arise in them. So once that the Purusha and Prakriti come into the proximity and then this all the work begins, it begins for the sake of freedom. Now, even when they are saying this Purusha and Prakriti, whether they are united, this question also comes that if you want to be free from suffering, means what? What is happening? Is that Purusha and Prakriti are united? Then again, Purusha does not unite with anything. But it is mere misperception that has happened in this case, that the Purusha and Prakriti seems to be united. And separation of it is yoga. So in Bhagavad Gita, in 23rd verse of 6th chapter, this is explained in the Sankhyan point of view. In Sankhya, remember there are two things. One is evolution and another is involution. So yoga, through the process of yoga, we are involuting, going back to the source. Chapter 6, 23, verse number 23 in Bhagavad Gita. There is no union according to the Sankhya and Yoga. They are saying this union is false, and that false union need to be removed, means this need to be separated. So separation is yoga in this context. Separation of Purusha and Prakriti, or identification with the ignorance, and separating that is yoga, means In yoga, we are involuting, we are going back. Evolution is that from where the Purusha and Prakriti come into the proximity, and then there is evolution. Involution is going back. All that productions, we go into the cause and effect, and we reach to the ultimate cause, and then changeless. And then there is a separation. That is the ultimate of Sankhya. And according to Sankhya, this is where there is a possibility of overcoming the suffering. Now, as the Purusha and Prakriti comes into the proximity, the first evolute of this is cosmic intelligence or Mahat, or the great uh, element, or in easy language, it is Buddhi, the intellect. It is a misperception that the Purusha and Prakriti are identified, and the result is that this Mahat, or this intelligent principle, or the Buddhi, or intelligent or cosmic intelligent from the universal point of view, and intelligence or intellect from the individual point of view. It needs to be understood in both ways. From a universal point of view, cosmic point of view, it is cosmic intelligence. From the individual point of view, it is Buddhi. So it is the capacity, this capacity of intelligence is, it helps to expand, reveal, and bring clarity. So this first principle of Sankhya is under the influence of, if this Buddhi is under the influence of Sattva, we will have clarity to discern the difference in Purusha and Prakriti. Now you see the Sattva, Raj and Tama, they need to be in, we are increasing the amount of Sattva, so that here there is a clarity, the discernment is there, and this Buddhi becomes Sattvic. It is Sattvic originally. As a evolution, from the evolutionary point of view, it is Sattvic, pure. But due to all the false ideas, beliefs, the Buddhi is also covered. So through the practice, we are targeting the Buddhi to make it influenced by Sattva. Now, in this case, sometimes you understand how this misperception is, that this Mahat is looking into the Purusha. That's where the real misperception happens, and sees the reflection on it and consider it as a Purusha. Practical example, let's say in all relationships we have this misperception. In all places of work we have this misperception. In most life situations we have that mirroring effect, forgetting our real nature. Suppose you are the representative of president of the company. Even sometimes you can say president is also the representative of the entire country. But misperception in the president may occur that I am everything, and that's where the whole disaster will begin. If in Mahabharata also, it's a very beautiful conversation between Bhishma and Yudhishthir at the end of the war, these Pandavas said, please tell us something about how we should uh, rule the kingdom. And then Bhishma said that you rule like you are the representative of the citizens. Your powers are not real, they are given to you. With this trust, with this faith, that you will perform your duties diligently. Since Yudhishthira is already the embodiment of the dharma and satya, so he is that kind of king who is able to behave in that context, in that manner. It's too much, and it may be politically disturb you. Practically, in your personal life, it also happens. Sometimes we, like in the couples also, we have this misperception that I am representative of my spouse, and if you take it for granted, it's a dangerous thing. It will ruin the relationship. The moment we are taking that role of that I am the one who needs to be representing her or him, the problem begins. More practical example is, normally I say that if you are given some power, some capacity, and you get habitual to it, you start enjoying it, and then the time comes that because it is given, so it is taken back and it causes so much suffering. Everyone has some experience of that. That when it is taken, what happens? This is exactly what happens in this context, that this Mahat, this intelligence is misperceiving itself as Purusha, and that's where the whole problem has happened. However, it is nothing but this power is given. In this way, the second evolute is this intelligence need to be always fueled with sattva, and this is where all the purpose of the practices is. Even in Hatha Pradipika, when they are talking about the pranayam, then they mention that you, after having purified your nadis, your energy channels, you start the practice of pranayam with sattvic mind. Sattvikaya dhiya means with sattvic intelligence you practice pranayam. If we don't practice pranayam from the sattvic mind, then we will misinterpret everything. And all the things that we do in the pranayam becomes the exercise of the lungs only. Whereas the purpose of the practice is entirely different. So that's where the idea of sattvic buddhi is required. The next evolute is Ahamkara, the fourth principle. Don't wonder why it is fourth. First is Purusha, second is Prakriti, third is Buddhi, fourth is Ahamkara. Ego. Means, Aham means I, and Kara in the sense that to do or perform, that I perform or I do something. It is individuating principle. that you individuate everything. Whenever there is a thing presented, then I want to put the prefix I. So this I-ness, in this pure I-ness is fine. But when this I-ness, it is also sattva. If it is sattva, then it is still functioning fine. So next from that is mind. So it is the sattvic, the result of the sattva in the influence of, because rajas is always there in all. So now because of the rajas, all this movement is happening. So mind is again the evolute of sattvic ahamkara. And in this context, this mind is further going into this 5 Gyanendriyas and Karmendriyas, means sense organs and motor organs. Mind itself is for synthesis, analysis, deliberation, intention. All these are the characteristics of the mind. Mind is helpful in all that work. And this mind functions into the world with the help of 5 sense organs and 5 motor organs. And these 5 sense and motor organs are, as you already know, they are indriyas. So they are ears, that which is having the capacity to hear, the capacity to feel. This is the skin, to see through the eyes, to taste with the tongue, and to smell with the nostrils. So these 5 are the sense organ, and 5 motor organs are, it is feet, walk, hands, pani, organ of excretion, organ of the urine and anus, walk, pani, and procreation. So these are the 5 evolutes of manas or sattvic ahankar, and they are 5 motor organs. So in other words, we can say they are the capacities of actions, speech, hand, feet, sex organ, and excretory organ. These are the 5 sense organs, karmendriyas. Now, the next evolution, next principle, that is evolute. From the tamasic ahamkara, 5 tanmatras are also produced. And these 5 tanmatras are the potentials of subtle elements, and the potential of hearing, potential of touch, potential of vision, potential of taste, and potential of smell. And from that, from these 5 subtle elements, gross elements comes, Panch Mahabhutas come. They are earth, water, fire, air, and ether. So earth, water, fire, air, and ether. These are the 5 Mahabhutas, 5 elements, gross elements. So now you see 5 subtle elements, 5 gross elements, 5 karmendriyas, sense organs, 5 motor organs. The total how much we have? This is where we are connected to the world. These are the gateways through which we have all the perceptions and all the connections. So, in the context of all these 20, now how many principles? Purusha, Prakriti, Buddhi, Ahamkara, 4. Fifth is mind, and 10 we have 5 sense organs and 5 motor organs. So how much we have total now? Total 25 principles are there. When we say 23, then we don't count the Purusha and Prakriti. When we say 25, then we count them. And yoga has 26, who has added God as another aspect. So that's where the whole creation is. Now, according to now all this, if we keep in mind now, then what is involution? Involution is, if I want to introduce myself, then how do I introduce myself? What is my last limit? It goes up to the earth, water, fire, air, and ether. Who am I? If I want to say something, then all of us are reduced into this. Means innumerable elements, entities are reduced to minimum. Only 25 things. No matter what, everything is reduced to this much. This is where involution has happened. This is where all the processes of yoga are trying to do with us. So with the help of the practices of asana, pranayam and all, we are becoming aware of all these 20, you can say, connections to the world. How earth element, water element, fire, air, ether, and these subtle elements, and these 15 or these 5 sense and 5 motor organs and the mind. This is what our connection to the world is. So they are saying that you are becoming aware of that connection. That when you are going to make a new creation, this new creation will begin with these 25 things. So if you want to see this whole world, you see these 25 things in clarity, then you can involute. In other words, now to make this whole process easy, when a perception of stimuli is presented, we will see this in a sequence now, so that you forget, because this all the technical terms, you just forget them. What I am trying to do is now simplify everything. Whenever there is a perception of stimuli is presented, the sense and the motor organs and the 5 gross elements and the subtle elements will connect to it. Then from all that, means all these 20 elements that are in the front, you can say they are in the front desk. It's a good analogy. I don't know yet, but we can think of it like this. So at the front desk, there are 20 principles, any stimuli is presented, these 20 principles are in action. And they collect it and they send it to the mind. So this is the next boss. And the mind says, okay, what is the information? All the information is collected with the help of this. Your sense organs, motor organs, your subtle and gross element. You collect all the information. That information is sent for analysis. Who does it? Mind, manas. So it is all the evaluation or assessing analysis is done by the mind, manas. Now it is forwarded towards the sense of individuation. I have to do something with it or not? If not, then go to hell. I don't care. This creation is not for me. And then sense of individuation or ahamkara is relating that information to your egoistic self, whether this is helpful for me or not. If it is not helpful, then I don't care. I drop this. Then this information is further presented to buddhi. It is the potential for discernment between the Purusha and Prakriti. Means that all these elements, these 20 front desk representatives are collecting all the information, sending to the mind. Mind analyzes it, and okay, these are all the facts. Then it is sent to the Ahamkara. Do I have something to do with it or not? No, it's nothing to do with me. Then drop it. Yes, okay, send it to the buddhi, and then buddhi takes that final decision. This is the whole journey of all the evolutes of Prakriti. And with the help of the practices of yoga, we are actually working with our legs, hands, speech. So all the Ashtanga yoga of Patanjali, if you see, is something to do with these 20 things, mainly outside. There is external instrument and then internal instrument. So two instruments are required. So for the external instrument, Patanjali has given Bahiranga Yoga. They are Yama, Niyam, Asan, Pranayam, Pratyahara. And for the internal one, Patanjali has given Antarang Yoga, internal yoga, Dharana, Dhyan, and Samadhi. With these 8 limbs, Patanjali has presented a formula for involution. Patanjali is saying that if you follow this 8 limbs path, you are able to free up, because everything is so sequentially and logically presented, and all the aspects of external instrument with the yamas, niyamas, so all the senses, motor organs, asan, pranayam, subtle elements, gross elements, and all that connecting to the pratyahar, to the mind, and then the ahamkara, and then buddhi. So all the internal yoga, meditation, dharana, dhyan, and samadhi will take care from the mind, ahamkara, and buddhi. So this is the map that Patanjali has presented. So in the Sankhya philosophy, The main aspects of the Sankhya philosophy are that we become aware of all these principles, the process of evolution, and reducing the world to minimum. Whenever there is a confusion, Sankhya says, look at it from these lens of these 25 principles, and all unnecessary burden from the mind is released. So this Sankhya philosophy will be helpful in developing that rational aspect, realistic aspect to all aspects of the life, not running away from it, but becoming aware of it. Number of psychosomatic or psychological problems can be also corrected. It's a very pure form of cognitive behavior therapy, CBT, because it is giving you the rational analysis of everything more than the rational emotive therapy, REBT or CBT is presenting to us, because the yoga is associated as a practical science that they say no, not only this much, not only the rational analysis, but now the practice part is this. So we even go to this grossest part of the practice where we are focusing with the 5 elements and working with them. In meditations, in the asanas, in the pranayamas, mainly we are engaged with the body, and this body, the gross body, is nothing but the 5 elements only. And with the help of these practices, when buddhi is sharpened, buddhi is purified, buddhi comes into the influence of sattva, then all the processes can be corrected. I think this is all for today. Thank you very much.